ushindi kwa ukombozi wetu. Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote, tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika, chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa mafarakano. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
Welcome to Human TV Africa. You are live watching us. This is Human TV Africa. Let us make Africa the tree of life. To find Africa, Mutwaizma. And of course, in the studio is my producer, Hussein Baya, right in Kenya. And of course, my name is Katum Kasa, Ugandan lawyer interested in issues, human rights, issues, humanism, and definitely issues, economics, politics, and progress. Today, I want to encourage you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Humanist TV Africa. If you Google us, you'll find us. Our name is Humanist TV Africa, and of course, that is our Facebook name. Now, we want to encourage you to please write to us. Please write to us. Our email is info@humanistvafrica.com. And our WhatsApp number is right there. Our email is info@humanistvafrica.com, and our WhatsApp number is right there. Our communication officer will be able to talk with you. And who knows, we shall be able to host you in one of our shows. Now, Humanist TV Africa is a registered media charity. We are registered to work in the media industry, but we are a charity organization. We are registered to work globally. At the moment, we have studios in Uganda, we have studios in Kenya, we have studios in Nigeria, Ghana, we have studios in Zambia and Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, USA, and UK, where we have people we work with, and we're opening up more studios elsewhere. If you want to join us, please send us an email or WhatsApp us at that number. Africa is the theme that we're going to be discussing today, and we are looking at a region, the Bane of Africa, the region, the aspect that believes Africa, and the region, that aspect that is taking Africa backward. People have said that Africans are notoriously religious. Today, I'm happy to have two distinguished guests to discuss this issue. The region, the Bane of Africa. Today I have Ebenezer Helu, who's an author based in Nigeria, will be able to join us here by call shall be able to hear from him. Ebenezer Helu is an author of the book uh, titled The Untold History of the Black Race and the Fall of African Civilization. The book written by Ebenezer Helu is known as The Untold History of the Black Race and the Fall of African Civilization. We shall be showing some images of this book. Now, in the studio again, I'll be having our colleague, Todd Mayer, who is based in the USA, also a supporter of the works of Ebenezer Helu, especially in terms of taking his message to the people. We do believe that the work done by Helu is important. I'm going to request the producer, Hussein Baya. Our producer is in Kenya. I'm going to request our producer to please usher in our guests for today. Yes, that is Ebenezer Helu right there. Ebenezer, if you can hear me, please do some greetings to our audience. Ebenezer, if you can hear me, please unmute yourself and speak to our audience.
Hear you. Can you hear me?
You can hear you, please. Continue, please.
Yes. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I want to also thank you for having this show, which stands as an avenue to enlighten our people to be aware of their culture, their history, and what is keeping them backward in our society. My name is Ebenezer Heru. As he said, I'm the author of the book, The Untold History of the Black Race and the Fall of African Civilization. I'm a writer, and I'm also someone who is into education and a teacher. So that's just all about me. Nothing much.
Yeah, Ebenezer Helu is a teacher, is an educator, and he has actually given us some of the most important audio, visual audios on religion. We have actually played one of his audio videos, visual educative videos here on one of our shows, where he talks about how Christianity was manufactured. If you didn't know the author is Ebenezer Helu, a writer of books. Now, Ebenezer, what motivated you to go into writing about the history of Africa, which most of us didn't bother to know about? What motivated you to dig up this history?
Okay. My the motivating factor is the situation and the experiences I had when I was
The
coming up.
producer, a minute, the producer, please, as Helu speaks, please be playing those many images. They keep on going on the screen so that people can be able to watch them as the author of these books speaks. Please show us those images as Helu speaks. Thank you so much. Continue, Helu, with our discussions. And of course,
Okay.
tell us, where do you get the name Helu? For example, the name Helu is more of Kemetic name.
Okay. Okay. The name Heru is a Kemetic word. It comes from the Egyptian Neteru. In Egypt, we don't call their gods, we don't call them gods and goddesses. We call it the Neteru. The Neteru is the nature. Okay. Now Heru is the name of an Egyptian Neteru, okay, who was the first resurrected Christ, the first to walk on water, the first to have 12 disciples. He was born by a virgin, okay? His mother was a virgin, and the name Heru in Kemetic language simply means hero, a hero. Now, he was able to defeat his wicked uncle who killed his father out of greed and jealousy. And this story is the first documented story in human history where a brother killed his brother 5,100 years before the story of Cain and Abel. So after Heru defeated his uncle, the name was given to him as the first human being on earth to bear the name Hero after defeating his uncle. So that was where the name came from. The name came from the Egyptian Neteru, that is the Egyptian god Heru, who is the son of Isis, and his father is Osiris. That's how the name came from.
Please continue. Continue teaching us about this history. Beneza, continue.
Okay.
Teach the audience.
Okay.
We are listening.
The thing is that religion in Africa, Africans don't have religion. We don't know what is religion, but Africans have a direct communication to nature. Now, when the white man or when the Europeans came, they saw that Africans were connected to nature. Now, in order for them to take themselves out of darkness, they had to plagiarize the African spirituality and converted it to religion. For instance, the story of a woman giving birth as a virgin, the story of a man having 12 disciples walking on water, feed 5,000 people with few loaves of bread and fish, was already documented and recorded in African history on African walls in Egypt, in Nubia, and in Ethiopia before the story of Jesus Christ that we see in the New Testament. So Africans must understand that their spirituality was plagiarized and sold back to them and kept them mentally enslaved. That is what we are today. That's why we are teaching this history, that we don't need religion. Even if we want to go back to what we worship, we must know our history, where it started from. That these things are being plagiarized from our history, from our original spirituality. For instance, we have a story of a brother killing his brother. Now, the Old Testament will tell you that Cain killed his brother Abel, that this was the first time in human history a brother killed his brother. But this is a historical lie, a historical blunder. Africans already had a recorded history of a brother killing his brother, which is Seth, an Egyptian Neteru named Seth, who killed his brother out of jealousy, which is Osiris. Now, we must understand that the word Satan is derived from this word Seth. Because when the Jews came to Egypt, remember, the Jews did not come to Egypt as slaves. They came to Egypt as students to acquire knowledge from African Kemetic priests. So when they came, they saw that all these things have already been practiced. All these things have already been documented in Africa. So when they left Africa, they left with these stories. And they converted these stories and personalized it. They wrote themselves into the stories. Okay, so I need people to understand this, that everything you see in the Bible, both the Old and the New Testament, for instance, the 10 Commandments, as we know, was already documented in Africa before it was documented in the Bible. Africans already had what we call the 42 laws of Mahat. And inside these 42 laws of Mahat was where the Jews copied 10 out of the 42, and they call it the 10 Commandments. This is a general knowledge that any African who is into African history will tell you. So this is what I want my people to know, that their history was recorded, was documented before it was plagiarized by their invaders. Okay, so when they came with the religion, they introduced it to us through the ship of slave trade. Now, if you look at how Christianity came to Africa, or let me use West Africa, for instance, how Christianity came to West Africa. It came through the ship of slave trade. Now, when Christopher Columbus discovered America, as he claimed that he discovered America in 1492, the Native Americans were used as slaves and they were dying like chicken. They were just dying easily because they were poisoned by the Europeans. So the population was reducing. There was no workforce to be able to work in the plantations in America. Now, the Europeans It was at this moment that the Europeans discovered that there are people in Africa that they need to use as slaves. Now, before now, the Portuguese were the first people who came to Africa, to West Africa, to use Africans as slaves. Now, this was around the mid 15th century. So when the Portuguese came, they were taking Africans as slaves in lower quantity. Okay. Now, when the Native Americans, the populations of the Native Americans were reducing drastically, a Catholic priest known as Bartholomew de las Casas recommended that Africans should be used to substitute the weak and dying Native Americans. It was at this moment the Queen of England, who was Queen Elizabeth I, gave a slave ship to a man named Captain John Hawkins to come to West Africa to take Africans as slaves to replace the Native Americans who were dying so easily because of diseases and poison. So when they came through the slave ship, they did not use violence at first. Violence was not applied. So when they came through the slave ship, they told Africans about Jesus the Christ. They told Africans that God is white. They told Africans that Jesus is white and all the angels are white, that they are the children of God. Africans don't know what is black and what is white. We don't know that. We don't know what is white and what is black. It was the Europeans who introduced the issue of color, the issue of skin color to the Africans. Now, the ship that was given to Captain John Hawkins by Queen Elizabeth I, the ship is called Jesus of Lubeck. Now, when this ship landed at Sierra Leone, it took over 300 Africans into the ship. They told Africans that they are taking them to save, as in to be saved. Africans followed John Hawkins into the ship. Now, when they were going to America, innocent African children, female, I'm talking about African girls, our African girls and mothers were raped inside the slave ship in the name of Jesus Christ. Inside the slave ship, this was in 1562, the year 1562. Now, the African ladies were raped, the African mothers were raped, our African fathers were drowned to death, who were weak and cannot be able to use as workforce in America. They see them as useless. So they said, instead of taking these people to America, let us drown them to death. From 1562 to 1804, over 15 million Africans were drowned to death during the transatlantic slave trade in the name of Jesus Christ. So our African brothers need to understand this thing. They need to understand that Christianity came through the ship of slave trade. Let us use Congo, for example. King Leopold II, who was given Congo as a slave colony, King Leopold II told the Christian missionaries that when they get to Congo, that they should preach to the Africans to cherish and embrace poverty, that it is very easy for a poor man to make heaven than a rich man. This was how they mentally colonized our mind. This was how they impoverished our consciousness. That is why today Africans, the only thing they think of how to go to heaven. They don't think of how to create science and technology, because their mindset is being impoverished. Their mindset is being imprisoned by religion. This was what King Leopold II, who was controlling Congo from 1885 to 1907. Okay, so Christianity, through the ship of slave trade, brought Christianity to West Africa. And this is what Africans of today must understand. But if we want to look at the history of Christianity, we must understand that the idea or concept of Christianity was already documented in African spirituality before the Europeans had the religion. What am I trying to say? Now, if you look at the previous picture before this one was shown, you come to understand that
Ebenezer Helu, adjust your volume. We cannot hear you. Please adjust your volume and speak a bit louder. We cannot hear you. Ebenezer Helu, adjust your volume. You are talking about slavery. You're talking about religion, how it was used to adjust your volume and repeat a bit. We lost you in the last 2 minutes. Please speak much more louder. We can hear you now. That is Ebenezer Helu, the author of that very, very exciting book about Africa, the history and civilization. He is with us today and is explaining why it is important to understand the history of Africa and, of course, to understand the history of religion and how this religion has been used to demonize Africa. Ebenezer Helu is that author of that wonderful book, which I would like you to please go ahead and look it up. Now, Ebenezer, if you can hear me, please go a bit back because we lost you. If you can hear me, speak up a bit.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, what I'm saying is that there was the idea, that is the conceptualization of Christianity in Africa before the Europeans had the religion called Christianity. What am I trying to say in essence? When we started the show, when I was talking, I made mention of a dying and resurrecting Christ named Heru, that he was given birth by a virgin mother called Isis, and his father was Osiris. Now, this story was the first recorded story of an immaculate conception before the story of Mary and Jesus. Isis, the Egyptian black mother of God, was impregnated by her murdered husband, who was murdered by his jealous and wicked brother named Seth. Now, when he died, his body was dismembered into 14 pieces. Isis wept bitterly that the man that she loved, they don't have a child before he died. So she went around Egypt to pick up the pieces, and she remembered her husband, except for one piece that is missing, just one piece that is missing. And that piece is the penis. It is found in men and it is not found in women, which is the penis of a man. Now, she wept bitterly after she remembered her husband. She wept bitterly because there was no child between both of them before he died. So in the process of weeping and mourning her husband, his spirit resurrected, and this was the first resurrection story. His spirit resurrected and impregnated her. It is called the first immaculate conception.
I can hear that. Very interesting. How the spirit can resurrect and make someone pregnant is very, very interesting. And of course, scientifically, here we said it is impossible, but continue.
Now, when the spirit of her husband impregnated her, she gave and murdered him. She told him everything. She told the story to him. Now, this was the moment when he came of age, he started looking for a way to avenge the death of his father. To cut the long story short, he avenged the death of his father, defeated his uncle Seth.
Yes, please continue.
Okay.
With the continue.
This same Heru had 12 disciples. He was the first Messiah to have 12 disciples. He was the first Messiah to be born by a virgin. That is an immaculate conception. He was the first Messiah to die and resurrect. He was the first Messiah to heal the sick, to raise the dead. In fact, around 3100 BCE, if you read the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it is documented there where Heru said that I am the truth, the light, and the way. Now, why did he say I am the truth, the light, and the way? 3,100 years before the story of Jesus. Why did he say so? Now, he said that because after defeating his uncle, that is his wicked uncle that killed his father, Seth, after defeating Seth, okay, he became the king in Egypt. That is, he became the king on earth, while his father became the king in the underworld, in the spiritual realm. Now, for you to see his father when you are dead as a human being, you have to pass through him. That's why he said that I am the truth, the light, and the way. Just like Jesus Christ said, no one can come to my father except through me. The statement was first made by this Horus. Now, when the Europeans saw this story, they copied it, they plagiarized it, and they sold it back to us, to Africans, to buy, and we bought it. And today we are mentally and consciously enslaved by it, not knowing that we are the ones that own the original history, the original mythology. We have the original mythology. The mythology is not owned by the Caucasian, that is by the Europeans. It is owned by Africans, by the indigenous Africans. That's why if you go to Egypt, if you go to Ethiopia, if you go to Nubia, these stories are well documented on walls. Our history is not recorded on textbooks, on paper, like the Jews. No, we don't have a Torah. Our histories are recorded on walls. And if you go there, it is well stipulated. So the Europeans had to create a white Jesus. How did they create a white Jesus? They created a white Jesus through the help of their Renaissance painters like Leonardo da Vinci, like Michelangelo. These are Italian Renaissance painters. The first white image of Jesus Christ was painted by Leonardo da Vinci in 1492 as he was instructed by Rodrigo Bugia. Rodrigo Bugia became a pope of the Catholic Church and changed his name from Rodrigo Bugia to Pope Alexander. His son was called Cesare Bugia. Cesare Bugia was a homosexual who had sexual affairs with Leonardo da Vinci. It was Leonardo da Vinci who painted him as Jesus Christ, and this is the image. And it was this homosexual that the Europeans presented to the Africans when they came through the ship of slave trade. And Africans embraced this image. They accepted this image as the image of their savior, as the image of their Messiah. Till today, this image has mentally colonized Africans. So I need people to understand that for us to break from this curse, for us to liberate ourselves from this European lie of a white Jesus, we have to start going back to know our untold African history. We have to start going back to know those our history that has been plagiarized by the invaders. So that is how it is.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is quite a very educative story. Producer, keep on running those images. Keep on running those images because I want to give my take. I have to give my take.
I'm not hearing you.
I can hear you. Producer Boya, keep on running those images because I want to give my take. I want to give my take. Now, as we usher in our colleague Todd Mayer, right there in the US, just joined us. Heru has taken us through a history. Heru, can you please mute yourself because we have a feedback from your phone? Mute yourself for now. Now, as we wait for, we are going to be ushering in our comrade Todd Mayer, and I have to make a comment from what Helwa has said. Helwa has given us a history of Africa briefly, and of course, I want us to make this episode 1. We shall have him in episode 2 because this is a very big topic. Mr. Todd Mayer, most welcome.
Hello, how you doing, Cato?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yes, I'm happy seeing you here, and I want to thank you so much for all the support you give to Ebenezer Hill and of course other people. And I want to speak from there. Ebenezer Hill took us through a brief history. It's still giving us more a brief history about a religion in Africa and how it has been used as a form to brainwash many people in Africa. Now, as you, a person looking in from the US, what are the observations I've made about the people in Africa and how religion is affecting us? Are there any specific observations I'm making looking from the outside, how religion is impacting Africa?
Well, it's a lot of data has been shown that poorer countries tend to believe the God myths much more than, say, America, where its education is accessible to most people. We are currently in the U.S., 28% of us don't subscribe to any kind of a religion or belief in a God. That's growing by the day. But we have healthcare, we have jobs, we have an opportunity to better ourselves and information. In Africa, that's not readily available to a lot of people, and they don't know what to make of it from TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and who's telling the truth, who isn't. I think Africa needs better education. A lot of the schools in Africa are Christian or Islamic based. When people believe in a God that's going to come and save them at some point in the future, they give up on trying because the next life will be even better. And so that's kind of where I see Africa right at the moment. And that's what's been groomed into Africans for the most part. Folks like yourself and Heru, they know, you guys know the facts, but so many don't. And they need that to help them make it through their lives day by day. And that's kind of where I see Africa at the moment. It's going to be a slow process for you guys to come back or come around to where we are at this present time. But I'm hoping that folks like myself and others from the US can help individual people out, thereby spreading the word one person at a time. If I help 3 people from Africa and those 3 people help 3 people and so on, then there's a chance that the message will travel.
Thanks so much, Todd. Todd is a free thinker, as you can see, the t-shirt free thinker. Todd said something which is very interesting. Of course, Todd, this is not the first time he's featured here. He has been here for quite a number of shows last year, and we are simply having him back here. Todd is a free thinker, the humanist, and of course, is a supporter of a free thought education in Africa, and of course, has been behind the support of Ebenezer Hill's book, which we have already shown on the studio on the screen, and we are going to be encouraging you to please buy that book. Buy that book. May the producer please, Hussein Baya, may you please give me this book at a close range. But of course, we have an image already. Baya, may you please give us that image of the book so that we can be able to talk about it, and of course the viewers can be able to order that copy, because that's the only way we are going to be able to support the Hill, but also support ourselves by getting a copy of that book. Yes, that's the book. The book is The Untold History of the and the Fall of African Civilization. The book is by Ebenezer Heru. You can order this book from Amazon, but also you can write to get it through Ebenezer. We could get the contacts of Ebenezer. Ebenezer, you can drop for me the contacts are right there. Please give us a minute here. To get hard copies of this book, please contact Todd Mayer at humanrace121@gmail.com. Please contact Todd Mayer at humanrace121@gmail.com. It can be shipped worldwide. The ebooks, instant download at Night Little Books. Or you can get copy, paste link. That is the link right there, nightlittlebooks.com. You can be able to access that book. Please, 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 please. I call upon you, our dear viewers, to please consider getting yourself a copy. This book is marvelous. This book is education. This book is very, 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 very informative. The book is written by Heru, Precious Ebenezer, and it talks about the history which basically you don't learn in the school. Heru has been making a video informative series where he talks about religion, history, comedic history, the history never had in schools. And if you listen to these audios, if you watch these videos, trust me, you are going to know that Hello is doing a very important work to help us awaken the people in Africa. I want to encourage you to please, again, search for this book. The book is The Untold History of the Black Race and the Fall of African Civilization. Please, 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 please search for this book by visiting https:// Night Little Books. Simply put in Google nightlittlebooks.com and search for book Untold History of the Black Race, or simply write to Ted Maria, wherever you are, and we shall be able to get this copy back to you. Now, back to me. Thank you so much, Baya, in the studio. We have made that advert for the book. Now, back to Todd. I thought, looking at Africa and the way the region has affected us, and of course looking at the American, you told us that about 28% of the American population is now becoming non-religious. And to me, it's a bit of progress, because America is one of those, of course, USA is one of those very religious countries. It is notoriously religious. To me, it's a shame that the number one power of the world still has so many elements of conservativeness, so many elements of religiosity. In the UK, at least above 50% of the people in the UK today, as we speak, are not religious. And of course, when you go to the rest of the Schengen countries, you find that 70% of the population there in these countries, Germany, Denmark, Norway, are no longer religious. US is catching up slowly, and of course, we know that there have been too much religion in the US. And surprisingly, in the US, the black population is notoriously religious. Churches that steal from the poor, the richest pastors in the world, are either in Nigeria or US. Anyone can search that. The richest, I call them pastorpreneurs. The richest pastorpreneurs in Africa are either in Nigeria or the rest of the world are in the US. And when you Google US, majority of the churchgoers are basically black people. Now, I find it very, very, very intriguing how we are so religious, regardless of the history of the region. Now, back to you, Todd, going forward before we get back, Ebenezer Hello.
You bet.
What other piece of advice we give to a people watching us today, especially people in Africa, as a wake-up call to get rid of the yoke of religion?
Well, it boils down to, we have 80 plus or minus years of life on this planet. We only know what we know from what our parents have taught us and raised us when we were very impressionable. you know, when mom said the stove is hot, we believed her. When she said that person over there is black and he's no good, we believed her. When they told us there's a God in the sky that watches everything you do, we believed her. That's just where we came from. And we have to realize that she came from that background too. Her mother told her these things, and her mother's mother told her these things. And so the reason the blacks in the US believe and go to church, not all of them, but, and I'm not sure the number of how many percentage, but I think it's a pretty good size amount.
There should be like 80%. I
Okay.
do think blacks are so notorious and religious, and to me,
Yeah.
it's a shame. It is
Yeah,
a shame to us.
80% sounds about right. So they had the same upbringing. You know, 400 years ago, we brought people here and we forced this on them. And over time, you know, if we're only here 80 years or 100 years in some cases, there's a lot of generations there that were told things over and over, and we just assume that they're correct. And not only that, but the message that religion brings is hard to ignore. This life isn't all there is. There's a better life coming, you know, down the road. Yes, that man treats me bad today, but tomorrow he'll be in some other place, you know, hell, being tortured while I'm in heaven. You know, that's why I can put up with him treating me that way. That's a mindset that's very hard to get around.
Yeah, mindset.
Yep. I found that, like myself, I was a Christian for 30 years. I believed it. I brought people into it. It was the truth. There was no other truth. I knew what I knew, and everyone else was wrong. And only a few people, like myself, would make it to the end and to heaven. And everybody else that didn't have this faith wouldn't. And that's their choice. They have the choice. God is clear. He's easily defined. You just have to want it. And the want it is the part that's critical here, is because those that believe it want it. You can believe anything if you want it bad enough. And if you look out into the world and you see the trees and you see the birds and the animals, it had to be created. It had to be somebody better than us. It just couldn't have happened on its own. But yet we know through science that everything that it took to create our world that we're at is available in the universe. All the chemical material is out there. And it just takes having this one planet a certain distance from its sun with the right conditions for those chemicals to come together, and here we are. And it can happen. And just because we haven't found it elsewhere, it doesn't mean it can't happen, because we are proof that it did. I truly believe in evolution. I believe that there was a big bang at one point. What caused it, we don't know. People want to imagine that there's a God in the sky that looks over them and takes care of them and created all this. And what we've learned over just the last 100 years is that we're not the center of everything. We're actually going around a star like other planets in our solar system. And that star is not just sitting there. It's traveling through the universe around our Milky Way galaxy. And that whole galaxy is traveling through space, just like all the other galaxies. So we're not, at the end of when I talk, we're going to be millions of miles away from where we once were. And we can never go back there. Even though we go around the sun and we'll come back to that point has moved on. We've all moved away. The Andromeda galaxy is scheduled in millions of years or so to collide with our galaxy, the Milky Way. That's what we know. And our knowledge in the last 100 years from physics to astrobiology to you name it, has all led us to know that there was a big bang. We don't know, but everything is there to make what we consider our home. And we're not the pinnacle. We're not the end of that cycle. We are only at that point now. Tomorrow we will change. The next day we will change even more. And over millions of years, we may not look like we do today. We're just at a point in the evolutionary time frame that's now, that's current to us today. And so it's just an ever-changing thing. And it's hard for people who want to believe in something else to give it up.
Thank you so much. Now, Todd, that is
Yes.
very, very interesting discussion there. Am I right if I say that religion survives because of our ignorance?
I don't know if it's so much ignorance as it is our desire.
Mm.
If we want something bad enough, we will stay ignorant and not know it. You know, I'm trying to think of an example of that, but okay, let's suppose that I have two pencils here. They're identical pencils, except one is red, one is blue. Without that color, they're identical. Okay, now I have one black man, I have one white man. They're identical, except for their color. That's the only difference. The only difference. But there are still people that think that black man is bad. He's just a person. He's just a person. So it doesn't matter. There's bad whites, there's bad blacks, there's bad humans. We are a species that, like our ancestors that we broke off of from the ape family, you can look at their culture and you can see how they want to dominate, how they want to socialize and push aside others. We're no different. We might be smarter, but not smart enough to realize that we're not any different. And it's just mind-boggling to me how in 2024 we still have this race problem. It's just maddening. Just as here in the U.S., I have a niece through my wife, who's white. Her niece is white, and she has a black boyfriend. Awesome guy, great guy, loves her to death. I don't have a problem with it. You know, if he wasn't a nice guy, I would have a problem with it. But anyway, they go to see grandma at the building where she lives, and it's a security building. Only certain people can go in there. You have to know somebody inside the building, and they have to let you in. The people in the lobby saw the black man and would not let him in. Yet he was with his girlfriend, whose grandmother lived in the building. This just happened days ago. It's just the way it is. But we can fix it. And here's how it happened. Here's how the fix came. Grandma heard about it. She went to the manager of the building. The manager was appalled. Manager's white. She said, it's his grandmother just as much as it's her grandmother. And she notified the tenants who would not let this man in and explained a few things to him. I won't say the words, but I think you understand what happened there. We are getting better here. And the only black person that was involved in this was a young man. Everybody fighting for him was white. So there's hope. And by my being on your show, I hope that your viewers understand that there are people in this country and around the world that see you as people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Todd. Of course, you are among those people that always support our causes. You brought in the issue of racism, and of course, it is live and kicking. One day we are going to have a show and talk about it much more in detail. Of course, I've had different shows talking about racism. All of us can be racist in one way or another. It's something which is within us, and we keep on fighting, and keep on fighting. And I want to thank you so much for bringing that example of how racist some of our societies are. Now, going back to uh, the region, I want to invite back Ebenezer Helu, precious Ebenezer Helu, back into the studio to give us a recap and, of course, a work forward going towards the end of this show because we have 10 minutes left. I want to encourage Todd and Helu to give us another episode of the same because there are so many things we need to talk about.
Sure.
We cannot address them in one show. We can have the same topic but different episode and then talk about the other thing because according to the outline we had made, we haven't even tackled 2 of the areas we had made. But let us go back to Ebenezer Helu. Helu, give us a recap of what we have talked about today, and of course emphasizing the issues you wanted us to talk about today, and of course promise the viewers that we are going to be back for episode 2 of the same. Back to you, Ebenezer Helu.
Okay. You see, Christianity is not the only religion that was imposed on Africans. Okay. Islam is also another religion that was forcefully imposed on Africans. Now, our African Muslim brothers must understand that Islam did not come to Africa through peaceful means, but through violent means. Now, if we want to look at it in details, like going into deep history, we'll start with North Africa. And in North Africa, to be precise, we are looking at Egypt. Okay. Now, when the Arabs, it was the Arabs who brought Islam to Africa. Now, when the Arabs came to Egypt, they met the Romans because the Romans have already invaded Egypt around 30 BCE. Now, when the Romans, when they invaded Egypt, they were maltreating the Egyptians. Now, when the Arabs came and took over from the Romans, they told Africans in Egypt that if you want to follow Prophet Muhammad, you pass this other side. If you want to follow the Egyptian gods and goddesses, you pass this other side. The Africans who decided to follow the African spirituality were all beheaded. This was how Islam came to Africa. And this was around December 640 AD. Now, they spread across Egypt and they entered, from Egypt, they entered other part of North Africa. Now, I need people to understand it, that when Islam came to Africa, the first Africans that they converted to Islam are the Africans we call the Moors. Now, it was these Moors, that is Moors, it was these Moors that they used to penetrate into every nook and cranny of Africa and destroy the African culture and tradition. They used these Moors to facilitate the spread of Islam in Africa. And it was not through a peaceful means, but through a violent means, just like Christianity that came through the ship of slave trade. Now, they presented, in the aspect of Christianity, they presented a white image to the Africans. And as I said when we started the show, Africans don't know what is white and what is black. That was the slave master that introduced the idea of racism. It was the slave master that introduced the idea of racism by telling the African man that he's black and Satan is black and he's a child of Satan, while he who is the slave master is white and God is white and is a child of God. This was how they mentally conditioned our mind. This was how they mentally impoverished our mind to keep us mentally inferior, to believe that we are children of Satan. That is why our skin is black. So Africans must understand that religion was a manipulative tool. Religion was a manipulative tool to keep them mentally inferior for the rest of their lives. That is what we are facing till today.
much, Hello. Thank you so much, Hello, for that exposure. Thank you so much, Hello, for that exposure. We are back in the studios. Hussein Baya, our producer, take us back to the studio. Hello, there is the author of that very important book, which I want to recommend. And of course, I'll be talking with Todd Mayer and Hello to have this book on Amazon. I should recommend, if possible, to have this book on Amazon. Now, having said that, let me go back to Todd. Todd, we are concluding. We have 5 minutes to go.
Okay. I would just like to point out that for viewers watching, I'm assuming that a majority of the people that will be watching the show will be black. You know, that's probably a given. I just want to emphasize that if a white man is coming to you to tell you about God, that's not the white man you want to listen to. If the white man that's coming to you wants to help you, wants to better you, wants to help your family with whatever, even if it's just to someone to talk to and learn from, that's my God. That's me. If someone wants to talk to me about anything, because we're all human and we need each other. We need each other if the world is going to be a better place. We can't keep having all these fights about stupid issues, about color, about religion. We need to talk about what's happening today and how we can fix it. I would like to also have Heru explain his TikTok channel. It's very informative. He gets thousands and thousands of viewers. Many people comment. They have questions. It's excellent. It's very good. And I would like him to explain how a person can find him on there.
That's very important,
Okay.
Todd. Thank you so much for the conclusion. Of course, we shall have you back in episode 2 of the same topic. Now, Helu, in the next 3 minutes, can you please tell us about how they find your book and how your TikTok page is doing, the name of the TikTok, and also direct our viewers to your pages?
Okay. The TikTok handle is still the name Ebenezer Heru at Ebenezer Heru, and it has been successful with the help of Todd Mayer. He has been very active and very supportive to see that the page grow massively and successfully. Just as when Linda, our beloved Linda, was alive, she was very, very active in making sure that the page grew very well. And till today, I still give her thanks. And I also give thanks to Todd Mayer. He has done so much to make sure that the message of Black history go viral to every nook and cranny in Africa. Okay. And the book can be, for now, we can't get the book in Amazon because of it will be very expensive for our viewers or our buyers. So we created a site which is nightlightbooks.com. That's where you can get the book.
Request Hussein Buyer, please give us that book again so we can be able to read it again. The book is right there on our screen. We are saying, please, to support us, go to a site called nightlittlebooks.com. Please.
I recommend someone take a screenshot of that so you can enlarge it later and have that for reference. That would be a good way for you to save that.
Yes, Hussein Bear, please enlarge this screen, enlarge the book title, a cover page, so that it's full of the screen. Yeah, people can see it, that very part. Thank you so much, Hussein Baya. We are advising our viewers to please go check this website. It's called Night Little Books. Nightlightbooks.com. Nightlightbooks.com. It's right there. Book slash detail. And of course, you are going to be able to support us. When you support us, you support Ebenezer Helu. When you buy a book, you are supporting us in a way, and of course, you are supporting Ebenezer Helu to, one, be able to produce more books, but also two, empower your family with a book that teaches them their history. that give them things they never studied in the schools. Thank you so much, Hussein Baya. Back to us. Our time is up. And that is it for today. I want to thank you so much for being part of this. And of course, our viewers, we want to promise you that we shall be back in episode 2 with Ebenezer Precious Helu, the author, and of course with Todd Mayer to back us up and give us the other insight into learning about our history and of course the region. Thank you so much, our viewers. Todd, your goodbye word for today, your parting shot.
All right, well, thank you. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. Generally, we have great service with this company that I'm with, but you know, things happen. There's technical difficulties. We have a tower that's not working properly, and there are people on it working on it. So I don't think there's any group in this country that's trying to keep me from being on this show. I think it's just technical. It's just the way the world works. So I'm glad I made it in finally, and I look forward to future programs.
Yeah, thank you so much, Todd. Todd, we shall have you as many times as you can be available. If you're available, let us simply know. We shall have you back with Ebenezer Precious Helu. Ebenezer Precious Helu, please talk to our viewers, give us your parting shot, and promise us to feature again on this show.
Okay.
We are missing you there. We want you to give us your parting shot, if you can hear me. Ebenezer Helu is off because of, I think, network issues, but you have had him. He's going to be back here for more other shows. And in the next show, we shall be able to play some of his TikTok videos. We shall be able to play them here. You see them. And of course, we shall be able to highlight the site even much more. The site, Nightlight Books. So people can be able to go and access this book. So thank you so much, Todd Mayer, for making the show. And of course, thank you so much, Ebenezer Precious Helu, for giving us a very, very informative educational show today. And of course, Hussein Baya, my colleague in Kenya, for doing the productions. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Please share, like, comment, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.